you the present.
Wonderful. Well, the floor is yours.
Great. As Yasmin basically said, my name is Greg Ayers. And in saying that, you know, my job here is like Kramer's on Mad Money. I'm here to teach you, to educate you, and basically, and hopefully make you some money. So with that further ado, if you need to get a hold of me, you have my email address, you have my phone number, that's my cell number, and we can, you know, I can be reached there most anytime, unfortunately. So without too much further ado, let's get into this slide deck. You know, we're going to go through some what I call frequently asked questions, and these are questions I get all the time. And the real question is it difficult to get a GSA mass schedule? And the answer is no, but there are prerequisites for your business. And you have to be in business for 2 years, and you have to have 2 years of financial data, balance sheets, and profit and loss sheets. Those are required. There's a couple of ways. There's a fast track position that you can do that you don't have to have as much project availability, but you still have to have those 2 years of being in business and the financial data to support that. The GSA schedule is all based on past performance. It's based on what you have done, not what you want to do. And so we'll talk a little bit about the difference between the mass schedule and the GWACs, or the government-wide acquisition contracts. One of the other prerequisites is you need to generate at least $50,000 in revenue in the last 2 years. This is basically because the threshold for GSA is $25,000 a year, obviously $50,000 associated with it. And you need at least 2 different contracts. And you need those 2 different contracts because you have to write up project summaries, and you have to be able to support your labor categories, basically saying this is the average sort of cost associated with that. And so if you have those 3 prerequisites, you'll be able to get onto the schedule and make those things happen. Next slide here, Greg. Okay. Does your company have to be a prime contractor to get a schedule? No. In fact, subcontracting is, you know, perfectly acceptable. And they don't have to be federal contracts either. And the contract can be a state or local. In fact, GSA actually prefers commercial contracts over government contracts. And you say, well, why is that? Well, the commercial contract usually doesn't have as deep of a discount, and they feel that using the commercial contract as the basis for that, they'll in fact get further discounts into their pricing, which is certainly one of the major objectives for the government to have a GSA schedule, and so that the commercial contracts are normally preferred. And you know, one of the things that we ought to say is these contracts have to be within supporting what's called your special identification number. So you have to basically say, okay, if I'm doing information technology, these contracts that I'm purporting to present to the government have to be based on, you know, IT. If they're not, then you're not going to be able to get a contract for IT. So again, it's what you've done, what your focus of your company is, and how you are presenting that to GSA. And you don't have to present everything that you've done. You present what you want to get the schedule associated with. And we'll go to the next one. And so there are about 31 items that you have to include in your proposal. And, you know, these have to be pretty exacting. You can't just preform your documentation. GSA has some very precise standards. They have specifications that they want you to, you know, answer questions for. And so you have to be able to answer those standards, and they're all contained in their solicitation, which is 185 pages long. Most people don't read it. And so from that standpoint, if you're interested in getting a schedule, it behooves you to kind of figure out what is it that they want? What is it they're going to focus on? And then how is it that you're going to be able to do that? With over 400 different SINs, or special identification numbers, you have to be able to narrow it down and focus on what you want to have on your schedule and how you want to proceed. So with those kinds of background, we're going to take a look and do a deep dive into the schedule. You know, well, I forgot this one. Okay. Once a company's on the schedule, how do I win work? Well, GSA maintains a listing of RFPs and RFIs, and it's called eBuy. And so this particular web portal is only available to holders so they can get access to it. And the opportunities generally start at 25,000 and go up. And when we say 25,000 and go up, it could be a 5-year contract at $1 million a year or more. There are 12 large categories, and those are the areas in which you really have to break it down. You know, if you want to do furniture sales, there's a category for that. If you want to do travel and managing the booking of hotels and airlines, there's a category for that. But you all have to come into those special item numbers, and they're all based on NAICS codes. So if you're looking at IT and you're saying, well, I want to get the IT professional services, which is 54151S. If you say that, then you have to have NAICS codes in your SAM document that relate to that. And those NAICS codes would be 54151, 12, 13, 1, and 19. So all of those NAICS codes apply to the IT professional services, but you, in fact, to get at it, you may have to make sure that there's a match between what you put in your SAM registration and what you're applying for. And to do that, that's how GSA makes sure that you are eligible to have or to get that particular SIN. And the only way you can get to this secret listing of RFPs is to basically have a schedule number and an access code to go into that area and look around. And you can look at any of those, but they're all broken down based on the SIN that you have on your schedule and what the government or the agency wants to purchase or buy. So it's a one-for-one match across your SAM, across your SIN, and across the what's available for the government to actually operate on and purchase. So now let's talk a little bit about GSA types of contracts. The multiple award schedule, or MAS, is can have an unlimited number of vendors. Currently, there's about 3,500 vendors that do information technology. So you can see that there's a competitive base out there. You can also say that the opportunity to open this is 24/7. So you can basically do this at any time. There are no dollar limits. That means there's no upward threshold, even though what they say is the vendor has the choice of accepting or not accepting contracts over $500,000. And the reason why that is because it could push you into a whole different set of sins, and it could take you from being a small business into a large or medium-sized business. The interesting thing about the mass schedule is it's good for 20 years. If you continue to have 5 years of successful operation, they will in fact award you the next 20 years in succession. But you have to have successful operation, and that's easier said than done. The other side is the government-wide acquisition contracts, or GWACs. These have a limited number of suppliers. In other words, if you're familiar with 8A, in this case, the GWAC, which is 8A, there's an actual position for there, and they don't take everybody who applies. If you're familiar with Polaris, if you're familiar with VETS, if you're familiar with any of these contracts, they are specialized contracts for special groups to get on. There are set deadlines that you have to submit, so you're just like an RFP. You are writing your qualifications to meet the deadlines. There's also a dollar cap on the spending. Usually for the VETS contract, it's $100 million. If for the 8A STARS contract, it is $500 million. So that's these are all opportunities. But once that cap is exceeded, then it's over. And these contracts are, again, multiple year contracts, but they're only good for 1 year at a time. So if you don't meet their qualification, then in fact they have the ability to basically take you off the contract and add in additional people through a process they call on-ramping. And the other thing about these GWACs is you can use them to fill out your mass contract. So you have, let's say you have an IT contract on the GSA schedule side, and you also have a 8A STARS contract. 8A STARS has a whole list of labor categories. In fact, as I recall, there's almost 45 to 50 different labor categories on that contract. You can take, once you have an award on the GWAC, you can take those labor categories and you can move them and incorporate them into your mass schedule. Done that several times with companies, and suddenly where they had 5 or 6 labor categories that they could be competitive with, they suddenly had 50 labor categories and they could be very competitive, and the pricing was out there as well. So that's a value add for having both a government-wide acquisition contract as well as a multiple award schedule mass contract, in that they can work interchangeably and support you to basically increase your capabilities. The GWAC, though, is significant in that it again, it's only it sits for 5 years. So once it's over, they will go to the next version of that contract. So if you missed out on the opportunity the first time it came around, you can then go ahead and catch it 5 years later and get on it. And again, you don't have to be a prime contractor for a GWAC, but and you don't have to, but when you get in a schedule, you're going to have to be a prime contractor, because the schedule is awarded in your name, in your company's name. And so you have then some responsibilities to keep it up and operational. The GSA Marketplace is about 330 billion, and that's spread between the mass contracts and the GWACs. And the mass has been recently consolidated. So there used to be, you could have an IT contract, you could have a professional services contract, you could have a furniture contract, you could have a facilities management contract. But now what they've done is they've said, we want to give people just one contract number that covers a host of these different professional services, these 12 categories. So you can get that and have that and, make that happen. So the mass contract really supports everything that the government buys or leases. And includes training and IT and travel and accounting and 30 other different categories with inside those 12 major categories that I talked about just a few minutes ago. And again, the GSA Marketplace for the mass schedule includes federal, state, local governments, but only federal agencies can use a GWAC. So the distinction again is the mass contract is based on what you've done. The GSA GWAC contract is based on what you want to do, but then federal agencies can only use the GWAC, but the mass can be used by any government agency. It cannot be used by commercial activities. So if you're trying to give your rates to a commercial client, what will happen is you will then have to give all of those rates back. And I've had people who have missed that they have a GSA contract awarded, and when they discovered that they're not paying the industrial funding fee, they have a bill that comes up, and it's normally quite significant in the terms of like $50,000 that they have to back pay to GSA in funding. So you have to watch what you're doing. You have to be aware of it, and you have to have somebody sitting on top of that mass contract basically at all times, because if you don't, you can get into your company into trouble. Well, where do you find information about it? Well, if you go to sam.gov, you can find the information about the schedule, and you can just basically type it in, and that whole piece will be there. You can also go to the GSA website and go type in buying and selling to the government, and information will come up. And you can also go to the mass roadmap and type that in, and information will come up. Or you can go to what's called e-library, and you can download the contract document that'll take you directly to the SAM listing. And that's probably the easiest way to find what you need and find where you're at and where you need to start from. So these are the types of the 12 categories that are out there. We talked a little bit about information technology. That includes training, it includes hardware, it includes software, it includes services. So it's got cloud on there, it's got health, it's got cybersecurity on there. All of those types of things are embedded. You can lease software, you can lease technology, you can provide that all through that one types of information and that one area. And so there's again a whole host of subcategories that are broken down under the information technology. Professional services includes things like financial accounting, auditing, training, a whole host of things, anything that you can think of that is not associated with IT is associated with professional services. facilities management. This is basically where you can go in and provide support services to an organization. You can run training sites, you can run ranges, you can run do janitorial services, a host of functions on facilities management. Security and protection services, these are the guards, these are the the physical protection and control, access control of various buildings. In fact, if you go down to DC, you'll find that there is basically the buildings all have these security personnel outside, scanning your luggage as you go in, and scanning your making sure you're eligible to get in. Office management is basically the copier services, the printer services, the functionality that you have to support a piece, and it basically excludes all of the higher level functionalities that are in the professional services. Scientific management solutions. This is your research. This is your renting of equipment and etc. So that's a huge piece if in fact you're doing that sort of thing, but it's a huge capital investment at the same time. Human capital is basically temporary services. It's providing people and protection and support for various activities, and making sure that the agencies have what they need to provide the particular support. When you talk about industrial products and services, you'll see in SAM many times that things like, well, we need nitrogen gas, medical gases, cleaners and products. That's where all the industrial products and services, the laundry services, all come under that particular area. We mentioned travel arrangements. Again, these are flight arrangements. These are hotel arrangements. This is particularly true when, in fact, organizations have to go overseas and they're bringing a large contingent to the overseas site. Someone has to manage that arrangements and make sure everything goes well. Transportation and logistics. This is the long haul trucking. This is providing the services to get the supplies into the organizations and making that happen. And then there's furniture and staff furnishing and finishings. Basically, what you're doing is the organization needs new chairs, new desks, or bedding, or bed frames. All of those things come under that particular category. And then finally is miscellaneous, and that's anything that doesn't fit in to any of those or other organizations cleanly. They'll throw it into the miscellaneous category. So if you're looking to really do something with a GSA schedule, you want to use the 11 higher level categories, and unless something really doesn't fit, I don't necessarily recommend that you try and have a miscellaneous category schedule, but it's out there and you can take a look at it if you think something doesn't fit into what you're trying to provide to the government. Well, we talked about some of the basic requirements. Clearly, you must be registered with SAM, and you have to have a unique ID number. It used to be that it used to be a DUNS number, not anymore. It's unique. It is a 13 character number that is associated with your business and your business only. Once you've submitted your SAM registration, that goes over to the IRS. And the IRS makes sure that you're paying your taxes and you haven't defaulted on anything. And if everything is good and well, then in fact, they issue you a cage code. And so with the UIC and with the cage code, you can basically bid on any sort of opportunity that comes up if you see it in sam.gov or if you see it on GSA. But in fact, without that SAM registration, you can't get into GSA. You also need to obtain a copy of the schedule. And, I've told you now several different ways you can get that schedule. But again, the easiest way is the GSA library. You need then to take a look at the special identification numbers. The special identification numbers are all maintained on GSA eLibrary. So you can go through those pieces and you can select a major category. For example, you may select information technology services or information technology training. And you can then see all the SINs and all the numbers, and you'll also get a chance to see the scope of the information that's out there regarding that particular piece. So you can say, does the work that I do meet what the GSA is looking for? And so you're identifying where you have past performance, and you're matching that up with the scope in eLibrary, and that will give you the situation where you can identify the special identification numbers, whether it's 541611, which is professional services, or if it's 541 HEAL, which is the IT services for health. All of those things will be out there, and you can take a look at it and see if it matches what you have done in the past. Well, what do you have to do to get on a schedule? Well, I've taken all the 31 items and put this into a little bit of a condensed form, and a bit about that, and we'll talk a little bit more about these items in depth as we go along. But you have to complete 2 training requirements. One is called the Pathway to Success, and the other one is called I lost it for a minute. I'll come back to it. But the Pathway to Success is basically a FAR, DFAR training opportunity, and you basically go through this process. It is used to be you're given a test. There's no longer any test associated with it. You just have to view slides and basically understand what they're talking about. And then when you submit it, you have to say, yes, I've taken this. You have to register, and it's all behind a firewall, so they know if you've taken it or not. You have to write up your past performance, and it's either 1 or 2%. If you're doing something in the IT arena, it has to be 2. If you're doing something in the other 11 categories, it is only 1. But this is a very structured way of what they want you to explain. They want to explain what SIN you're going after. They want you to explain who the customer was, what the value was, what your methodology was, what your deliverables were, what the schedule was, and did you have any delays? Did you use subcontractors? And what did you learn through the whole process? And we'll take a look at a past performance write-up once we finish the slide deck. And you have to develop past performance references. Some of those, if you have been doing government contracting for a while, you could have some CPARs. But if you don't, you have to develop physical references, and you have to have 3 references. The references have to include the individual's name, the company that they work for, their position with the company, their telephone number, their fax number, their email, and how much they've spent with your company. And it doesn't have to be did they spent this year or last year. It can be however many years you've had a relationship with that organization. And once you've done that, you also have to then turn around and send those people a past performance questionnaire that says how well they think you performed for them in the past. You also have to develop labor category descriptions. The labor categories descriptions for GSA are very specific. They want to know the minimum level of experience for that particular labor category. They also want to know what's the functional description. What does that person do? And then they want to know the educational requirements. Is it a bachelor's degree? Is it a master's degree? Does this individual labor category have any special certifications? These labor categories have to be tied back to your invoices. But so if you have these labor category descriptions, you have to be able to say, I have at least for IT, at least 2 invoices that support that particular labor category. And again, those are from different contracts. So they want to be able to look at your range of your pricing to see if it's consistent or if you're just sort of winging it. And GSA doesn't like it when you just sort of wing it. You have to get very, very specific. And again, the labor categories have to match what's on your invoices. And if they don't match, then you have to be able to say, how do I deal with it? And you can deal with it in terms of a firm, in terms of a labor category matrix. It basically says for a firm fixed price contract, here is the labor categories that I used. Here's the rate that I use. Here's the hours that they work. Here's the total, so that you can basically back up your labor category descriptions and associate the invoices with that piece. You have 8 specific items that you have to deal with in terms of pricing, and clearly the pricing for GSA is a major component. You also have to evaluate your company. You have to say, what's my company experience? What have I done? How long have I been in business? Again, that 2-year time frame is required. And how do I operate? And what types of mechanisms do I use to operate in terms of my accounting and my finance? So they get at little pieces of your business all the time. For example, most people use QuickBooks as accounting software, unless they have a CPA associated with it. But you have to identify that. And again, why you identify that is because when you do your profit and loss in your balance sheet, they have to be in accrual format, and QuickBooks supports that. And then you have administrative documents that you have to prepare. And these are basically, how you do business. In terms of the reps and certs that are contained within the schedule, you have to say, yeah, I don't have any exceptions to those reps and certs, or this is how I do a subcontracting plan if I'm a large business. If you're a small business, you have to basically say, I don't do subcontracting plan. So here's a list of the checklists that you need to do. And this is where to get some of that information. So an FS, a Federal Supply Schedule logon, you have to have that to to basically get into the system, to register, to do the readiness assessment, and to do the pathway to success. And the link to both of those is on the eLibrary webpage, or you can go through that MAS roadmap, and that'll take you there as well. You have to submit a copy of your SAM reps and certs. So you have to say, this is the entity, this is the reps and certs. And many people forget to do the small business summary that is associated with and is run by the SBA. So when you do this, I always suggest that when you do your SAM's registry, you always do that small business summary. And the reason why, if large companies are looking to for small businesses to work with, they go to that summary and they say, okay, where is it that they do work, and how is it they do work, and what's the point of contact for that particular company. So you want to be able to do that, and you might think of that as a electronic capability statement, because that's exactly what it is. And the SBA runs it. When you register for you're basically for your SAM document, you can also go on to the next step and register for the SBA summary. Performance evaluation. Again, we talked about listing 3 companies and the POCs, and the doing the past performance summaries. Or if you have the CPARs, if you have 3 CPARs, you can do that as well. The corporate experience, those are 7 questions about your company, how you do work. You also have to develop a market price list or a commercial price list if you have it. And you use your invoices to do this. And you basically can go back in invoices and use go back 2 years, but you want to be able to establish a ceiling rate, and that's exactly what that is. In other words, your rates will not exceed this level. And sometimes you want to say, well, I want to be able to have a little more flexibility. So you might want to go and increase those market or commercial rates, and their GSA does maintain a commercial rate document that you can take a look at. You want to use the current date on this market price list. They want to know that you've done things that are current, and that indeed these are the elements that you've put forth and done the research. And then again, we've talked a little bit about the financial documents. Again, profit and loss, balance sheet, 2 years worth, and in accrual format. If you submit it in a cash format, they'll just kick it back to you, and you'll just delay your process that much more. Okay, let's take a look at the next part of this checklist. Statements of work. To support your basically project experience, you have to have a statement of work. And so it's what either the commercial company or what the agency has asked you to do. And so you use that statement of work when you write up your project experience, and you use that in terms of the deliverables and the expectations and what they wanted you to do. The exceptions to reps and certs, again, reps and certs are incorporated in the 185-page solicitation. And you're basically saying, okay, if that's the case, do I take any exception to these reps and certs? I would suggest that you don't take any exceptions to the reps and certs, because that's only going to cause you to be delayed, and they're going to ask you for clarifications and additional information associated with that. We talked a little bit about the labor category descriptions. Again, it's minimal levels of experience, functions, and education to include any certification. You can use in lieu of statements. For example, if you say someone has to have a master's degree, you could say, oh, well, if they have 6 years of additional experience, I will, waive that master's degree, and the experience can be used in lieu of the master's degree. Or if your people have high school diplomas, but they have certifications, you can say, well, IT professional services, they have the certification, but you have to be able to substantiate that. A high school diploma generally is not going to be considered a professional IT certification. So if that individual has that minimal level of education, they need to have additional years of experience and additional certifications. So you're blending all of this together. And the reason you're putting all this out there is you're going to explain in your price proposal template exactly what all this means. But this labor category description is essentially an individual document that goes right into your price list, into your that is displayed for the world to see. If you're a small business, you don't have to have a subcontracting plan. If you're a large business, you do. And the evaluation is interesting, especially for small businesses. So if you see a business that says O or other on it, that means it is considered a large business or not a small business. And the reason why is because that business has to give away 30% of its work to other small businesses. And they have to do it based on if it's a veteran-owned business, or if it's a service-disabled veteran-owned business, or if it's a woman-owned business, or if it's a minority-owned business. All of that has to come into their subcontracting plan, and it generally has to equal 30% of the labor or products that they are selling, and they have to report on their subcontracting plan to GSA every quarter. So it's an opportunity for you to find if some large business or other business is going after that same opportunity that you are, and you can bring that opportunity to them and present it and say, I can work with you, and I don't need to be the prime. I can be a subcontractor for you. And it's basically a way of getting into some of the larger businesses that have a schedule, and you can do what's called contract teaming agreements, where you can link your schedule with their schedule. You get paid for what you do, they get paid for what they do, but they get also the credit for bringing you in under their subcontracting plan. You also have to talk about the compensation for your professional employees. Now, it says professional employees. So what you're looking at is if you have 1099s, those are not considered professional employees. Professional employees are basically non-exempt personnel, full-time staff, and these are how they're compensated. And so you're talking about folks who get paid holidays. You're talking about people who get sick leave, people who get dental, people, all the various ways that people are compensated for their work. You have to list that, and you basically have to say, here's how we work this, and here's how I do promotions, and here's how I do salary increases and all that type of thing. And you have a limit of 4 pages that you can do that. Most people are able to take that and cut and paste right from their professional handbook, our employee handbook, and use it that way. So you have to be able to make those sorts of things happen. We've talked a little bit about project experience. Basically, it's a template. There are 6 questions that you have to answer and put forth. We also, have issues associated with. Okay, let's see if I can move that out of my way. Yeah, Service Contract Act. If you have, let's say, the guards or nurses or anybody who are considered to be under a Service Contract Act and low salaried, you have to basically turn around and put together a template that basically says this is what the wage grade issue is for that particular area. This is what I pay them, and therefore, they fall under the the Service Contract Act, and that is appropriate. And finally, for this slide, you get a quality control plan. How do you manage quality across your organization? Who takes a look at deliverables and makes sure that everything is appropriate and adjusted and making sure that it's et cetera. So you're taking a look and answering GSA specific questions in up to 4 pages, and you just have 4 pages to which to do it. And now we'll take a look at part 3. He said, oh, wait a minute, time out, don't need that. Gee, okay.
Everything okay, Greg? We still see part 2.
Yeah, I know, it's not moving. There we go. There, didn't want to move. Okay. So now we're getting into the pricing, and this is where most people have the most difficulty. So you have to take and basically develop your pricing, and you have to give GSA and the government the best price. So everything associated with that what's called the price proposal template, you have to say, here's my market price, here's my most favored customer price, here's the price that I'm going to give to GSA, and that's going to be a discount from the customer price to the GSA price, and that difference is at least 1%. And you say, okay, Greg, why 1%? What's so special about that? Well, there's a fee that you have to pay on a quarterly basis associated with having the schedule for work that you've won. And it's basically 0.75%. So to cover that fee, the discount has to be at least 1% from the most favored customer price. So again, there's 3 prices that you deal with: your market price, your most favored customer price, and then finally the GSA price. And then once you have the GSA price, then you put the industrial funding fee on top of that, and that's the price that the government will pay. You get everything minus that 0.75%. That 0.75% is given back to the GSA, and that's what they use to basically fund their operations. So there's it's a fee, it's a funding mechanism, and because GSA is a non-appropriated fund, they don't get any federal money. They use this money to basically run all their operations and maintain the schedules and the websites and their people. But you can imagine on $330 billion, that's a significant amount of money after a while. You also have to say, what's my EPA mechanism? And that's economic price adjustment. So you can increase your prices year after year for your contract, but you have to select a figure to start with. The highest figure that they're going to let you have normally is 2.5%. However, after the contract has been running for a while, you can say, well, we've had all these inflationary situations. We've had all the associated pieces, and I need more than that to compensate me and my people for the activities. And so you can adjust that figure, and you can do a modification to your contract to adjust your price adjustments. So there's a mechanism to do that, but that's not submitted in the original pricing. The original pricing at max template has a 2.5. And you have to have your commercial sales practice. That's called a CSP1. That says what sin you're going for, what your revenue in the last year has been, and what you anticipate getting in terms of awards associated with your contract. The pricing support are your invoices or your errata sheets. And that's basically saying, here is the work that I've done. This is what I've charged a particular customer. And this is what, in fact, I'm going to charge based on a discount GSA. Overtime compensation, uncompensated overtime. Well, what if somebody is a professional employee, salaried employee that basically is not impacted by the Service Contract Act or any of those things? They normally don't get overtime. So you can take a professional employee and basically say, okay, I can work you 60 hours a week. And they don't get compensated for it. But your hourly employees do. And so you have to basically say, what you do with and how you compensate for overtime. And you're obviously paying time and a half for those people and who are not our hourly employees. And then how do you deal with those people who are professional employees and don't get compensated for overtime? And then finally, labor category matrix. Basically, you need 3 contracts for an IT template, and it basically lays out all the structure for how you've done work and how you've progressed. Let's see if we can get this. Come on. I don't know. Doesn't like sitting, I guess. There we go. Well, what happens after the proposal is submitted? Okay, so you submit your data, and you have to do that with an FSS logon. You have to cut and paste into the GSA server for the contract specialist evaluation. And that normally takes 30 to 90 days, depending on the schedule that you're looking for and how busy GSA is. The summertime is especially busy. And when you get into the fall, it's especially busy because they're trying to do all the closeouts of all the federal spending. And so that's where this thing can linger on. So what you want to do is you want to get your contract into GSA as quickly as you can and get it in there in the winter or springtime frame, and it will go through much quicker. generally the specialist will say, hey, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or, I need more information. And they'll give you that opportunity to correct that piece and submit that information to basically to fix a shortfall. And they'll also send you they will also take your financials and they'll send that out to another organization, different office for your financial review. And that's where you have to make sure that you have over that at least that $50,000 threshold. And even that is sometimes cutting it pretty closely. So if there are any orals, and for example, if you're doing cybersecurity or what's called hacks, orals are required. So they'll schedule those. And they'll also schedule negotiations with your company. Now, they're going to go through all of your information, and they're going to try and get the most advantage to the government as they can. So they may say to you, well, you've given me a 2% discount on your labor rates. Can you give me 3? They may say, oh, we need a volume discount. So any contract that you get over $100,000, you need to give us a 2% discount on that. Or they'll say a prompt payment discount. So they're trying to do, in the negotiations, they're trying to get the best position. But these are negotiations. They're not, you don't have to agree to everything. And so if you say, well, I can't give you a prompt payment discount, but or I can give you a prompt payment discount, but it would be 10 days instead of, and most organizations other than Homeland Security are not going to be able to pay you within that 10 days time frame because their systems are not set up for that. So you can push back, you can play with them, and you can make any sort of adjustments. They may say, oh, that labor category wasn't substantiated enough. I need you to revise that. And so you have to do that. The contract specialist will work with the KO or the contracting officer, and they'll award the contract. And when they do, they'll basically say, this is your contract. This is when the contract starts, and this is the 5-year period. And you have to create then a price list for, in fact, your company. And that price list has to be posted to GSA Advantage. And that posting to GSA Advantage, you have to use a software program called SIP, or Schedule Input Program, to make all that happen. So there's a host of things that have to be completed. This is kind of the approval process in a wiring diagram. You submit the proposal, the contract specialist reviews it, and make sure you have all the finalized documents. Negotiations are started. The proposal review is done. The GSA price list, you prepare it. It's uploaded to GSA Advantage, and then the company is then granted access to eBuy. And that's where you actually can see the RFIs, the RFPs that you are going to be eligible to bid on. And that's such a critical step, because there is no other way to see those opportunities without having a schedule number and process out there. And that, without just a few more words of wisdom, you have to use the FS logon so you can see the SIN-related opportunities. So you have to have whoever is going to be the contract administrator, whoever is the CEO, whoever in your company wants to be able to view eBuy has to have a login, and they have to be eligible to see that information on eBuy. And from eBuy, you select the opportunities that you want to work with, and you might team to win the work. In other words, you take an IT situation, you have a systems administrator and a program manager, but you need a business consultant, and you don't have that on your schedule. You can actually team with another company and work together to, in fact, propose to win that work. And so, when you go through that process, you know, you go through and you win the opportunity and you start the work. But I want to add this word of caution. If you don't go out and actively work and solicit and get to know companies and agencies, I should say, you're not going to get the work. This is government contracting is unfortunately a good old boy situation. If they know you, they're likely to contract with you. If they don't know you, they're not. And 30% of the companies who get a schedule never get any work because they assume that the work is going to come to them because of their certifications. It does not. You just have to work at it. You just have to respond to those RFIs and get your name in front of the agencies, because if you don't, it doesn't work. So you can get a schedule, but it's no guarantee that you'll get work. And that should conclude the this portion of the presentation. And I guess we want to see if there are any questions, or do we want to take a short break?
Yeah, I think this is a good time to do some Q&A, Greg. That was great. So what I'll do is I'll go through the questions that are in the chat box, and see if there's any that you haven't addressed, because you may have addressed some of them already. And then we can continue, because I believe you have some other handouts to explain. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm going to show the gathered group physically some documents, that what they look like, so they can, if they're going to do this on their own, they can actually take a look at some of the inputs that go back to GSA.
Okay, great. Okay, first question is it over 50K over 2 years, or does it have to be 25K or more per year?
It has to be 50K over 2 years. So if the first year you don't have that contract, but the second year you got a 50K, you're still fine.
Okay. Can a single pass performance check the box for multiple sins?
And the answer is yes, but it depends. So you're taking a look at the write-up that you write your project summary on it. And let's say you had something that you were doing with cybersecurity and IT professional services and maybe cloud. So you could break that statement of work into those various parts, and you could say, of this contract, this amount of money would be applied to the that particular sin. So yes, you can do that, but you have to make sure that you get all the particulars straight, and you're answering the questions specifically for the sin that you're going after.
Okay, next question. Can past performance be work done on purchase cards and purchase orders?
Sure, and it is, as long as you have some sort of deliverable statement of work associated with it. They don't care necessarily how they buy it, but they want to make sure that you are performing the way the government would like you to provide it. So you have to have some sort of documentation. And usually, the purchase card or purchase order. It doesn't matter how they buy it.
Okay. Can we get on the multiple award schedule as a reseller, or do you need a specific relationship with the manufacturer?
You can sell products on as a reseller. You can get on the schedule as a reseller. But you have to have a specific relationship, and that specific relationship is basically a letter of supply. And the letter of supply basically says that the manufacturer will provide you at a fixed price for a period of 5 years the ability to purchase and resell the product for them. So the key document is in fact that letter of supply, and you can do just a product. You don't have to do services. You can sell product. Uh, if you're familiar with the company called Carasoft sells lots of products for lots of people, but they have to be able to have a 5-year letter of supply for all of the products that they're selling.
And the last question is, can we use a springboard program for new companies?
Yes, and I sort of address this. GSA has called that in the past fast track and springboard, but you still have to be in business for 2 years because you have to have that profit and loss and financial state and balance sheet for 2 years. So it's really, you're really substituting the senior people's work in projects for, in fact, that activity. But you still have to have the profit and loss and the balance sheet. So that the misnomer is that you're going to get there and you're going to be able to get a contract or GSA schedule using the springboard process, and it really isn't that great a program. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. One more question came in. How can we locate GSA active contracts and their prime? I don't think that information is available in SAM, and you have to have a schedule to use the GSA website to search.
Not true. If you go to GSA Advantage and you type in services, and then you type in a labor category, or you type in a company name, their schedule will come up. You can take a look at their schedule, their document. That's not going to be these 31 documents. It's just going to be their price list. So you see their labor categories, you see their pricing, and those sorts of things associated with it.
Okay, great. Thank you. One more question. You
Sure.
mentioned that you would need at least 2 contracts to be eligible. Do these contracts have to be current at the time of applying?
They have to be within 2 years. So they give you a 2-year window. You can go back 2 years, but and they really don't like you going forward very much because they don't know how you performed on that. And remember that the mass schedule is based on past performance. So new contracts are not necessarily as valuable as what you've done in the past. And again, you can go back 2 years.
Okay, that's all the questions for now. Do you want to go ahead and share the rest of the documents?
Yeah, we can do that. So hang on while we skip out of this and you know get to some other documents here. Can you see the screen?
Yes, it says commercial sales practice chart.
That's right. So this is what's called a CSP1. So inside your offering, you basically say what your revenue is, how you're working, and what SINs you are. asking for. This one is sin specific, and you basically say, here's all these different types of organizations and which ones do you sell to? And once you there, this one says commercial end users. So this is the discount that this particular company gave. And they said, it's 5.56% to 24.41%. Well, you notice that on the proposed discount to GSA, that's the 1% discount. And they're proposing, again, net 30 and at destination. And this document is, again, required for most of the organizations. I don't know if anybody has any questions on this. I'd be happy to address them if you do, or if not, we'll go to the next one.
Okay, yes, please, let's move on. Thank you.
Okay. This is a compensation plan. And you basically say how you do compensation, what's your work year, and basically what are your holidays, vacations, insurance plan, other benefits, and you spell all that out. If you're a small business, here's the subcontracting plan, and you basically say, hey, we're a small business, we don't have to have one. Thank you. Exceptions to reps and certs. You don't have any, you don't take any. Thank you very much. Uncompensated overtime, how you deal with that. Again, for the professional staff, the exempt staff, they don't get anything. And then the hourly basis, anything over 40 hours, they get time and a half. This is what a project summary looks like. This is for, in this case, for the hack sins. Again, you have to answer all of this information, and this goes on for several pages. In each one of those highlighted areas, you're basically saying how you did work. And so when you see something grayed out, that's the GSA question. And you have to answer that GSA question. And those are basically the areas that you have to address with each one. This is what a labor category matrix looks like. So you're taking each individual labor category, their years of experience, responsibilities, education, what you charged on that particular contract, what you charged on the other one, the market rate, and then you basically say, okay, what's your proposed rate without the industrial funding fee for GSA? And these, have to be done for every labor category. So there's a lot of them. This is the past performance questionnaire. So you're sending this out to the individual that you've referenced. And I always say, fill it out ahead of time. If they don't like how you fill it out, in fact, they can change it. But if you fill it out ahead of time, at least you're guaranteeing yourself a reasonable, return. Yep. Come on. This is what the corporate experience looks like, and you're providing the answers to, again, their questions. And there are 7 questions that you have to answer. You know, how you market, how you use subcontractors? Do you tend to use subcontractors, in-house staff, on and on? This is a market price list. And you'll see the date, you see the company and all the information about the company in the header, and then all the services they provide and how they break that down. And this is the biggie. This is the price proposal template. You'll probably not be able to see all of that because it's fairly large. Let's see if I can get this out of my way. Yep. This happens to be the escalation portion of it. This is the service pricing portion of it. And you have to fill out all of these descriptions and the various sins and what all that means, and all the required pricing. And again, each one of these is a line, so you have a lot of lines to complete. And that's what you have generally. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to address them, but that should pretty much conclude the presentation.
Thank you, Greg. That was great. Very thorough. I counted the documents you sent me. There are 12 in total. So I will be emailing you with a link to download all the documents from our Google Drive. And also you will be able to watch the recording later today in our YouTube channel. So this has been a very, very thorough presentation as always. And I'd like to thank Greg so much for doing this today, and to thank our clients and participants today for joining in and asking great questions. Also to remind you that your Apex Accelerator counselor is here to assist you as well on GSA schedules and other government contracting matters. So please do reach out to them when you can. And of course, Greg's contact information will be on the slides as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg. And we look forward to seeing you at a future Apex Accelerator presentation.
Terrific. You all have a great one.
Thanks, Greg. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I know.